Okay, so we're going to continue factoring. Just go back from Fridays. This lesson was pretty factoring out, pretty easy, just factoring out numbers. So, would go ahead, this number on the outside times each term in here would result in this given expression. So the way I told you to do it was just come out here and look at the number 7, 21, and this is 1. Find the greatest factor, which would be 1 in this situation. So 1 times 7 would give me that 7, right? Now, we're looking at the u's, t's, u, t's. Each of them have at least one u, so we can put out a u. So I would have 1 times u. I'm just going to get rid of that 1, just now u. And I would have at least how many t's? At least 1 t, so put out that t. So we're going to go with 1 times 7 gives me 7. We have 1 u here, another u here. When you add them, when you multiply, you add the exponents to give me that 2. So you can look at it like this. If we have 2 here minus that 1, we need 1 more t, right? There's a lot of different ways of looking at it, but that's the way it works. So 1 times what? 21 gives me 21. We have 1 here, so we no more u's are needed here. We have 2 here, we need 1 more t here. 1 times the negative 1, right? And then there's already a u, we don't need any more u's, another u, that's it. And that's where it comes out. Pretty easy, we say there. We did a couple. So let's come back to what we're going to learn today. Now, for today, we're going to do it by factoring by grouping. So pause it here to check out how it works. It's pretty easy. It's pretty cool. So usually you just get the first 2 terms, second 2 terms, factor out something here. X, you see how they both have an X, factor it out, left with an A and B. Factor out something here, Y, right? You're left Y taken out here, you're left with an A and B here. Now, regarding these 2 parts here, I would factor out the AB. You see that? Leaving us with X and Y. Well, I like the way they did that. I would do this. So if we had, just like the way they did it here, 2x plus 3x, right? Would factor out the x? No, that's not a good one. Let me try it. 6, right? I would factor out the 2, right? And leave us here with x plus 3. You see how I factor something out? Okay, so in this situation, what I would do here, I would factor out the AB, A plus B. When I factor out the A plus B from here, it leaves me an X. When I factor out the AB from here, it leaves me a Y. So this is the same thing as this. Cool? Yeah, it takes a while. Pause it and look at it. Pause it, look at what's going on. Let me show you another, this is what the book did, and I think it's pretty cool. So the first 2 are here, second 2 are here. See how they grouped them? What could I factor out of here? I could factor out a 4, right? Both have a 4R, they both have an R. So 4R times Q gives me 4QR. 4 times the 2 gives me an 8. We have an R, we don't need an R, so it goes like this. Here we can factor out a small one is 3, the 3 factor out of both. These was Q plus 2. So I can factor out that Q plus 2. You see it? Factor it out. What's left over? And there it is. Okay, pause that. Look at it again. I'll do this one real quick. So put this in your spiral. Put this in your spiral. Okay, you need to copy this down. So we have Rn plus 5n minus R minus 5. So I would group it like this. And put a plus here, negative R, and group it like that. I can factor out an n here. So we're going to go R plus 5. Over here I can factor out a negative 1. This plus, and then in fact a negative 1 here gives me R plus 5. So you see this R plus 5, I can factor that out. It goes R plus 5, leaving me with n minus 1. And there it is. Pause that, look at it, see what's going on, see what you think. Okay, it's actually way cool, way cool. Again, replay it guys, replay this part. This thing here, I'm going to do the same thing, 3np plus 15p, group it like that, plus a negative 4n minus 20. Look at it like that. We're going to factor out, from here I can factor out the greatest thing. Look at the small number, right? And look at the biggest number that goes into there and just like one time. Yes, so this is 3. We have p's in both of them, 3p. We're left with n plus 5. 3p. Yeah, it works out. Plus, now, heads up, just saying. You see this part here? You want that to wind up here. You really want n plus 5. If you can't see what to do, you really want this to wind up right here. So that's like a guide. You can kind of get it. I can factor out here a 4, a negative 4 actually. Let's see, negative 4 times this, check, gives me that. Negative 4 times this, check, gives me that. So this works out. So now I'm going to factor out this n plus 5 from both. N plus 5 comes out, leaving me with 3p minus 4. Boom, there it goes, guys. These are your final answers. This is that factored out. This is that factored out. It was kind of freaky, but hey, way to go if you kept on. Not rewind it, replay it, okay? Replay it again. We're going to go to the next stuff right here. Okay. It's the same idea. Everything's working pretty good. Same thing now. All it is, well, basically gives us, well, we have to factor out some negatives. And that's it. Everything stays the same. So let's look at this real quick. We're going to group it. Group it again. See that? And then here. Here, you know, okay with that one? Do you have any questions there? Okay. So sometimes, when you factor it out, how we can factor out here at 2m, it gives us this, 2m k minus 6. Plus, you see here, what could you factor out here? 7? Factor out a 7 from here, and here it gives us this. This looks so much like this. But if I could flip these around, if you were to just flip these around, if you were to flip this around, you're going to wind up 7 and then 6 minus k. Flipped around, you're going to have a negative k plus 6, right? Well, in this situation, what if you make this thing right here become a positive k and then a minus 6? Well, wouldn't this match up with this one? Well, basically, instead of factoring out a 7, just factor out a negative 7, if you don't mind. And that changes that the way you want. I don't know why they take time to do that, but it's the same thing. Factor out a negative 7, you're just going to be smarter than the book. And you wind up with this. These things match up. Factor this out. You're left with 2m minus 7. Okay, we'll practice this one more time, and I'm going to show you what else we're going to do added on to this. Okay. And so let's look at this one quick. We have c minus 2cd plus 8d minus 4. Here goes that, and there goes that. So I'm going to factor out a c here. I'm left with 1 minus 2d. Factor out a 4, right? Factor out a negative 4, because remember, I want this to look like this. So if I were to factor out a negative 4, see this is negative? That's negative. I want to go negative 2d plus 1. Now wait, aren't these two things the same thing? That's just rewritten weird. So rewrite this thing over here. Negative 4, 1 minus 2d, and then we're going to have c 1 minus 2d. You see that? So then this and this come out. 1 minus 2d, c minus 4. Boom. It's pretty easy again. Seriously, it's really easy. Just take your time, look at it. Repeat this, watch this video part again. Super good, actually. Way good. Well, so you know, we got to keep on pushing, doing better, and getting smarter. So there's this idea. We're going to factor this stuff. And I told you at the beginning of the year, when we see the word 0, that means your word 0. Okay? We also want to know where it's your, this is the most famous one, x-intercept, your root, or your solution. That's where we're going here. So in case you didn't realize or notice the stuff here, in all of these, we're going to have like d squares, if you can kind of think about it, because 2d times this one right here gives me a d squared. Now we're going to have graphs that look like this. Graphs that go like this, and it crosses the x-axis twice. Sometimes it doesn't cross it at all. Sometimes it only crosses it once. Okay, so what they're trying to figure out here is where in the world does this graph of that equation, inequality, or not, whatever they give you, basically crosses the x-axis. So that's called the 0, right? So here, if they know that these two numbers multiplied give you 0, then that means one of these two would have to be a 0. Does that make sense? And your 0 could be here. This is another number. This is a 0, and this is a number. Either one of these two will give you a 0 when you multiply them. So some equations can be solved by factoring. Consider the following. Whether one of the two numbers is a 0, the whole thing is a 0. One of the two numbers is a 0, the whole thing is a 0. One of the two is a 0, the whole thing goes to 0. Actually, in this one, both of them are 0, right? Here, one of them is 0, the whole thing goes to 0. So that's it. So it says if the product of two factors is 0, then at least one of the factors must be 0. So what do you mean? So if you put this in your calculator, you can actually go to graph and graph it. Obviously, don't put D, put X, right? You're going to get some graph that does this. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those numbers tell me that the line of the graph goes like this. How do I know that? Because it's the 0. You see that? It's the root. It's the solution. It's the x-intercept. So they all go hand in hand. You got to be aware of that and be ready to rock and roll with that. So they're going to give you stuff like this. Ready? They're going to give you stuff like this and say, hey, find the solution. Again, that's finding your 0. That's finding your root. That's finding the x-intercept. So it's saying this is a number and this is another number. When is it equal to 0? When this one's equal to 0 or when this one's equal to 0? So guess what you need to do? You need to find both. So you get this one, set it equal to 0. You get this one over here, set this one equal to 0. So these are the zeros of the thing. Well, what do you mean? We'll solve it. We add 6. I'm sorry, we minus 6, minus 6, minus 6. Oh, you know, I should do this one right. Minus 6, minus 6. These cancel out. We're going to go with 2d is equal to 6 divided by 2 divided by 2. There it is. So when they say this, they're saying find the x-intercept, find the root, find the solution, find where this graph crosses the x and x-axis slash the x-intercept. That's what it's asking. Okay. So I'm going to come back over here. What in the world? When they say this, they basically want you to do this. Set it equal to 0. You got it? Because they want to know the 0. If you look at the directions, that's the same. Hey, solve. And solve means to find the solution. To find me the root. Find the x-intercept. So you just do the book here. Set it equal to 0. Subtract 3c, right? Factor it out. So this is the way this one works. This is the first factor, this is the second factor. That first factor is equal to 0, or that second factor is equal to 0. And there it is. Got it? Pretty cool, right? Okay, let's go try this next one over here. Let's look at this real quick. So this one says equal to 0. There's one number here. You don't like it, I'm sorry. And there's another number here. And the whole things happen to be equal to 0. Well, what does that mean? That means that 3n is equal to 0, or that n plus 2 is equal to 0. We're going to figure out both. We're going to do both. Just deal with it. We're going to divide by 3, n is equal to 0. And then this one over here, minus 2, then we'll have n equals to negative 2. So when n, x, y, whatever, they don't care, when n is 0 and negative 2, you have your graph going like this. You guys got it? So what's my answer? You can say the roots, the zeros, the x-intercept, the solution are what? 0 and 3. You can just put them like that, the set of those two. Let's look at this one. Let's get this one. Let's see what's going on with this one. Same idea. Factor it out. What? What could I factor out of this one? What could I factor out of here? I'm going to factor out an 8b. This leaves me b minus 5 is equal to 0. So what do I know? I know that 8b is equal to 0, or I know that b minus 5 is equal to 0. Guys, divide by 8, b is equal to 0. 0, the set, guys, it's a set, all right? And then the one over here, add 5, we're going to go b is equal to 5. You have any questions on that one? That was actually way cool, right? Hopefully you liked it. Same thing over here. So we're going to go x squared equal to negative 10x. Remember, they said to solve. The directions are solve. Solve means to find the solution. So we're going to go x squared. We're going to add 10x, I should say, right? We're going to add 10x to both sides. So we're going to have x squared plus 10x equals to 0. Here, what we're going to do here is factor out an x, and we have x plus 10 is equal to 0. So we know that x is equal to 0, or we know that x plus 10 is equal to 0. Minus 10, we're going to go with x equals to a negative 10. So the answer for this one, my zeros, my solution, my root, my x-intercept are 0 and negative 10. And I did not put parentheses. Parentheses means the coordinates. We don't have a coordinate here. We have this. The set of the answer is 0 and -10. Going once, going twice. You do have an assignment on Alex. It's called 8/5. Have